I'm not sure that we are really making them tougher. We have a commitment that was made by all countries in Basel to implement what is called Basel 3.5. I think the industry calls it Basel 4. And there should be now the delivery. And to take one step back, and well, all the news was still about the pandemic, I think it's fair to say that all the tightening we have seen in the past has served us very well. And here we are now really talking about just the finishing touch to this, not to overtake, but I'm always getting a bit the feeling when you look at it, it's like at home. Your children always tell you that other parents are less tough. And then when you talk to other parents, they say their children tell them, you are less tough than they are. So I think we are doing the final step. We should not overdo it because lending is important. But to take another step back from Basel, I think, is not getting us into the right direction.
But the evidence is clear at this point, isn't it? If you look at the latest ECB lending data, we are seeing a slowing down in corporate borrowing from the banking sector, just at a time perhaps when many of these companies, you would imagine, would like more money to be able to expand opportunities around the reopening trade. We don't have the same issue in the United States. As far as I can see, the lending data there remains incredibly robust. We do have a problem, it seems, with the transmission mechanism. The banks themselves would probably tell you it's to do with the over-regulation in Europe.
I'm not sure that that's the full answer. I agree, we are seeing, which comes a bit counterintuitive, slowdown in lending. But we've also seen, and we are also seeing, that the industry is fairly liquid. They all learned the lesson during the last financial crisis. And we saw in March, April last year, an unprecedented drawing of all credit lines. So I think it's probably more a question of demand and of supply. But I think we should not ignore the argument that perhaps there is not so much demand from sound borrowers. So I haven't got a crystal ball here, but I don't think that regulation is the answer to this somehow puzzling picture.
Elke, we were talking before to Goldman Sachs and we were discussing some of the problems still with cross-border transactions, that while you're getting a clean-up in the banking space as banks pull back from far-flung parts of the world and get the balance sheet in order, what you've still got is a lack of cross-border transactions taking place because of lack of banking union. What comes next? Do you think we actually are going to get to a point where there is a single approach across the bloc and those transactions can actually occur?
I would dearly hope that we get to that point. And again, the answer is probably twofold. On the one hand, you still see, and you said, you see the deleveraging to some extent. You see that any transaction, or most transaction at least for the moment, are still transactions where the merger is used to basically create synergies and downsize to some extent businesses. And there clearly you have an advantage if you are looking to acquire something in your neighborhood. You can easily merge branches and the like. That's not so easy when you do it cross-border because that part might not be so easy to achieve. But at the same time, I agree, we would very much hope for the finalization of the banking union and to link it to the first questions, the capital market union. Banking union is still incomplete. The third leg, the European deposit guarantee system, is still missing, and I fear it will be missing for quite a while. And capital market union is something the Commission is also working on, but which is also not to be achieved overnight. But we needed to have a by far more European capital market.
Elke, one of the big trends we've seen during the pandemic has been this acceleration of digital trends, and the banking sector has certainly approached that. Very few people going into banking branches anymore, given some of the lockdowns, a lot of transactions happening online. What are your concerns about some of the cybersecurity risks from here and the sort of access that populations across Europe will have given digital literacy levels?
I think it's first and foremost to say that one of the big pluses of the pandemic was actually a boost in digitalization. When you talk to bank management, I think they will all agree that a number of projects have been accelerated just because you needed them. Otherwise, they would have been probably still on the back burner for a couple of years. So that's the plus. The negative is clearly that you have an increasing risk of cyber crime. I think so far it seems to me that the industry is really coping well, but you also have a risk, and you see it in probably a number of countries, in particular rural areas, how you can really in the end secure the supply of banking products. And I think there it's for the industry to find solutions. We can't have a bank branch wherever you can boil water, but we need still to have also branches for people that are less agile in using modern technology. But I think this is for the banking industry to find the right balance there.